Yeah, this is the Seton Rivals podcast where we come to you weekly during the football season and we get after it. And folks, as I say each and every week, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. First, it was the audio version, and then it was the Facebook page, and then it became the Arizona Varsity Podcast Network and Sports360az.com. They are aboard as well, so you get to see all of us. You get to hear what we talk about. You get to hear our likes, our dislikes, all of that fun stuff as we are in year 12 of this awesome podcast. And this past week, the teams that we cover, 3 wins and 2 losses. The CUSD, they were 2-2. They pretty much had to be. And the one school of faith that was in action, they were a winner. Speaking of winners, I've got 2 guys who I get to win with every week, and that is Ralph Amsden and Chili as we come on out. And we got Ralph Amsden, the founder of Seton Rivals and Arizona Varsity, and of course, Chili, who I like to say is the founder of everything. He's all over the map, literally and figuratively, and however that word is pronounced. You know how some folks can't pronounce great words. Ralph, I will move over and start with you, my man. We watch a lot of games. We watch games at the high school level, pro level, college, but long before that, there were game shows. And I'm just curious, just very off the cuff, whether it's something in the present or something that you grew up with, game shows. What type of game shows did you watch back in the day, or maybe even something that intrigues you now?
Well, oh man, it's really funny that you bring that up because with my grandparents, every summer, would watch The Price is Right. And
there we go.
That's not necessarily, I feel like Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, those are more trivia shows, but those were the 3 that they caught every single day. And The Price is Right live is actually happening 10 miles from my house tonight, and tomorrow night we're not going. But I thought about it.
That's the spin the wheel one, right? That's
get as close to $1 without going over.
Yeah.
I watched so much Price is Right. That's probably my favorite one. And then my kids are very much into the gamified cooking shows. So Nailed It, Is It Cake, things like that.
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, they're super
Netflix.
into those. So to be honest, there's not a lot of stuff that you can just sit around and watch with your family. That most TV shows have gone like super gritty, super dark.
True,
so
very true.
To actually have something that 4 kids, age ranges 8 to 16, can watch together, it almost has to be a game show. So like Wipeout, stuff like that, they love. But Price is Right is one I'd love to get them into, just because it actually like deals with like real world stuff.
No, that's
lots of things, and then it's always really, really fun in the games of chance or whatever to see or Plinko or whatever else it is. Those are so much fun to watch. That's definitely my go-to is Price is Right.
I'll say that I got to agree with you, and I did not expect you to come up with that. I got a couple quick stories. Number one, like growing up as a kid, yes, Price is Right taught me kind of how to count. It's like they'd have a can of sardines, and it's like, okay, is that 69 cents, 89 cents? You just never know. And then as I got older, kind of those showcase showdowns, wow, how much is a trip to Hawaii worth, or a week in Disneyland, or whatever it may be? So that really put the numbers scenario in my head. And years ago, when I was 17 years old, my mom and I, we went to Los Angeles and we got to see The Price is Right. And she disappointed me in the sense she said, Brett, the one thing that's not happening today is if they happen to call my name, I'm not coming on down. I have put my name in the no call list or the no draw list. And at the time I was only 17, so I wasn't eligible. There were going to be no Quintynes coming on down if we were to be so lucky. So yes.
Was it still Rod Roddy back then?
No, Bob Barker.
No, the announcer, Rod Roddy, come on down.
Yes, that the old guy. Yes,
that's my guy, Rod Roddy. Yeah,
he is very infamous. Yes, Chili. What about you?
No, game show. I mean, I don't know, like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, like that stuff. Like, I mean, I'm just, regular. I never really got into like a bunch of the game shows and stuff. But hold on, Brett. I forgot to do this last week. I totally meant to do this last week. So I'm gonna give you a second here to think about this because I'm gonna try to remember to ask you one of these once a week on the Seton Rivals podcast, because a lot of people they know us, but they don't really know us. So like, we introduce ourselves to a new audience, obviously, stuff like that. My guy Brett is a horror movie, scary movie fanatic. For those of y'all that don't know, like this is like what he does. He's really into that stuff, just like I'm into the sci-fi stuff, the Star Wars, the Jurassic Park stuff like that. He is into the scary stuff. So I use him as a beacon, if you will, of scary movie knowledge. So Brett, I'm just curious, your 3 favorite scary movies. And I'm gonna give you a second to think about this and process this as I tell y'all mine. And anybody that's been following along and listening and whatever, they already know. The Strangers for me did it. It was the wild stalking aspect of the movie. Like I will not go to a cabin. I will not go to a cabin after seeing The Strangers. It was the scariest situation. So me and my roommates at the time, we went to go see this movie, and they were like, "Oh, strangers, guys in masks, like no big deal." Like I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Not a problem. I can handle this, dude. The creepy music like did it for me. These people are like popping up in the house. I don't want to ruin this for anybody. Like if you want to be scared, no, not for me. Not for me. I saw. Definitely not.
I'm waiting for the end of the year. Yeah. Oh no, they're just getting started.
Like Trey Knox. Nope, not for me. Not for me. So before I let you answer your 3 favorite scary movies, Brett, Ralph, was there ever a scary movie that just messed with you permanently? I won't even listen to records no more from the Strangers. I'm a former DJ. Like I have a record player at the crib. Like, no, do not put the vinyl on unless the sun's up. Like, there's no way. Any movie that has messed with you mentally, Ralph, that you're like, no
Frailty,
hockey masks for me.
Frailty with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a deep cut. Not a lot of people have seen it, but it's Bill Paxton and Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
And so like you'll see crime stories where people like went insane and they're like, God told me to do it. And like the second I just click out of the story, turn the channel. And that's all because Frailty that's a messed up movie, man.
It is.
No, The Strangers is a messed up movie. All right. Brett, you ready? Have you put this all together in your head? Okay, what do you got for us? What's number 3?
Number 3, I'm going to say Scream. The reason I say that
the original. Okay.
The Drew Barrymore opening scene, nothing had been done like that in a very long time. You figure Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street was played out by that point. Friday the 13th had faded. So there was a very long gap before a well-made movie like Scream had popped out. And that Drew Barrymore scene is really good. Okay. There's a movie I'm going to say it's very disturbing. The Hills Have Eyes. And that's somewhere around Arizona, New Mexico. And
don't tell me that. Why would you even say that? Why would you even say that? You might as well say like this happened in Tempe down the street from Corona del Sol. Come on.
It's not. There's a scene in there that's very disturbing, and And then the last one would be The Others, because The Others is very unreal, twisted, and will make you think. And it's and I'll say this, one of the things that she's sitting across from me, you guys can't see her, but my wife is not a fan of horror movies. She's actually going to be away from home Halloween week. that's when I will sit back and lights out, and Netflix or the Hulu
with the lights out
are going to go down. Yes, that's the only way to do it. Yes.
All right, I got a question for you, Brett, because my kids are always asking, like, what ones can we watch? And I'm like, and the others was the first one that I said yes, because like it you know, it's not appropriate for kids, but it's not like it's not gory or whatever, but it's an
right.
movie. But would you count Disturbia as a horror movie? I do. And that's the next one. That's like this weekend for them.
That's a good one. I'd say that leans towards horror.
I'm over it.
Yeah. I think your kids are of age to check that out. I mean, that whole next door neighbor creepiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm over here watching The Great Pumpkin.
I'm a fan
Charlie
of Disturbia.
Brown and
Charlie Brown.
And y'all are, oh man. Well, like, listen. Like, there's a difference between a good scary movie and something that's just like a bloodbath. Like all that Saw stuff, like, yo, that stuff is just weird.
No.
Like,
see, now you going into I've seen all 10 Saws and I can get with every one of them over and over. Yes.
But that's not like scary. That's like
no,
different.
there's a method to Jigsaw's madness. There really is. He's laying out traps and he's been dead for a long time. He knows how to lay it out.
Yeah, I'm not. Hey.
Now I will say,
since I'm talking to two New Yorkers, are you aware of the greatest horror scene of all time? I believe it's Jason in Manhattan, the rooftop boxing scene.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where some of them stretched out, like Jason in Manhattan. Like, one should never be afraid of Jason on 125th Street or 34th Street. There's other reasons to be scared in New York. But
yes.
The rooftop boxing scene in Jason in Manhattan is the greatest piece of cinema of all time.
Didn't these
got some?
Hey, look, I promise at some point we're going to talk about Chandler area football. But didn't some of these crossover? Didn't like Jason, Freddy, like
there was a Jason meets Freddy or something? Yes.
Yeah. So they did. So okay. We're going to get into that next week, anyways. I'm going to let you take us into the rest of the show. Let this thing begin.
Sounds good. We're going to start with the Valley Christian Trojans, and indeed, Jake Peterson's team, just 3-4 on the year. Bye week last week. Chili, I'll ask for a preview of this week's game against Paradise Honors. The Panthers, they're 3-4 as well. What do they need to do to kind of get back on the right track?
Just be themselves. Listen, Coach Peterson, he's figuring this thing out himself also right now. Like, this is the first year that he doesn't really have a superstar quarterback, in the fold, right? Last year he had Link, and the year before that, like, he's been rolling for a while. What is it? He's had like 3 super successful quarterbacks, and now he's trying to, develop one on the move. So I think that, they just stick to what they're trying to do. Just carry out the game plan. And look, Paradise Honors, like, they're trying to figure themselves out too. They just lost a kid that threw 273,000 touchdowns in a season and was absolutely astonishing. So like, they've changed their offense up a little bit, and I think that I think that they're trying to find themselves too. So I think that this is going to be a great game between two teams that got to figure out, what's next for them.
Ralph, the Trojans are number 20 currently. Is there a path for them to get in? I look at their schedule, and obviously they got to win on Friday night. I don't know. It seems challenging, but you are versed in I'll say you're more versed in potential points than I am, which is why I steer you in that direction sometimes.
Yeah, so they have to go 2-1. But if they go 2-1, I think they're in.
Okay. Who do they got?
So this week, Paradise Honors just outside the playoffs with the 17th ranking. It's not going to hurt them to have played Paradise Honors. And then they have Payson and Benjamin Franklin, quite possibly their 2 toughest games of the season. And the current rankings for Payson and Benjamin Franklin are 4-8. So, I mean, Valley Christian is essentially in the playoffs right now. And I don't see a situation where they lose to Paradise Honors and figure everything out, turn around and beat 2 playoff teams. But if they can go 2-1 over the next 3 weeks, I have full confidence that they can actually get into the playoffs at 4-5, which is essentially 5-5, but the forfeit win doesn't count for the playoffs.
Correct. Okay. No, that's good. There is still optimism. And of course, we week in and week out cheer on the Trojans. The Seton Catholic Sentinels, they rebound with a big win, solid win over a good Independence team, 36-28. That was the final against the Patriots. Chase Dixon with a couple of touchdowns. Luc Aguilar with what seemingly is a 298-yard game. Ralph, he's now well over 1,000 rushing yards on the season. This is a team, Ralph, that when they're on, they're on. They also got a couple of interceptions as well from their defense.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is it's shaping up to be an incredibly special year for their running back. And I mean, Luc Aguilar is averaging 160 rushing yards a game. I think that probably in a 10-game season puts him in contention to be their top rusher ever. And again, there have been so many talented football players coming through Seton Catholic, but there haven't been a lot of running backs that where they ran the offense through the running back. Even in the Antonio Campanella years, this was a balanced offense. And so, it's only going to be special if they're in the playoffs, right? And right now, as of right now, it looks like they're going to make it. But you can't take anything. You really, really can't take anything for granted. Again, just what Luc Aguilar is doing right now is incredible, and it has put Seton Catholic in a position to be the top-ranked 2-loss team in all of 4A. And there are some very, very good 2-loss teams in 4A, including Walden Grove, Vista Grand, who Seton beat already, Bradshaw Mountain, and last year's champion, Canaan Del Oro.
Wow, no, that's good stuff. Chile, yes, indeed. They are currently number 9. Home game against Gila Ridge on Saturday, which is interesting. 6 o'clock start. Not sure why the time changed, but Chile, what I'd like to get from you is, as long as this team is doing what they're supposed to do, it seems like they are in very capable hands, because you figure, yes, as Ralph mentioned, the 2 losses, one was to a 5A team and one is to arguably the 4A favorite. This is a put-together team. Walheim's done it nicely.
Yeah, no, I love it. Look, I think Luke's having he's their Cam Scatterby, right? Like, he's handling all the business on the ground. And look, as long as he keeps getting 200, 300-yard games, I mean, I don't see how it's possible that they're going to lose games. I mean, they're going to be controlling the clock. And look, defensively, they got dudes. Ralph has brought it up the past few weeks, and Isaki, Jorgensen, Ellis, all those guys had 10 tackles, and then Sloan Sweet's been special this year. So, I think that these guys,
Nick Pastore with the interceptions.
Yeah. Yep. So like they definitely got good things going, and love the vibes. And what is it? It's Dobson and Ray. Things are cooking over there. Jeff Walheim definitely has that thing working. So yeah, look, it's not just Valley Luna.
Is it fair, fellas, to say that Luc Aguilar, he has broken his school record twice, or the school record twice, because he had the 240 earlier, and I guess the 298 he broke it again.
Yeah, he now owns the top 2 all-time rushing games for Seton Catholic, and I got to tell you, like, Gila Ridge, they're not a pushover, but Jaden Wetzel at Flagstaff already had a 200-yard rushing game against them, and Dominic Nix at Chrisman had 161 yards on only 12 carries. Might be like,
you can break it again.
Over on Luc Aguilar.
Wow,
dang!
That's
impressive. That's crazy. That's crazy. Luke's having a hell of a season.
We would love to see that. Go Sentinels. The Arizona College Prep Knights, fresh off their bye week at 5 wins and 1 loss, they're ranked number 2 in the 4A rankings. They host another team that is 5-1. That's the Coombs Coyotes. Chile, I honestly don't know much about that other 5-1 team, but for me, the stat that jumps out the most, Ethan Heinrich, 10 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions. That says a lot about QB1 over there.
No, man, he's doing his thing. He's got a fleet of receivers over there that I love. I always show those guys love. I love how Ortiz is dialing this up for his offense. Look, Poole, Sanchez, those guys are special over there. And look, these guys traveled to Indiana, bonded, took a heavy L together, came back and was like, hey, look, that was tough, but we got this. They put this whole thing back together, and you got to love the way Coach Vaught has orchestrated this whole thing. He's got all his coaches that he loves in the right spot. I love what Bartz is doing on defense over there. So I think man, these guys are rolling, and they might be helping to guarantee that C-Town has one champion on championship weekend.
That would be awesome. Ralph, I'll ask you, what are you most impressed with? Or maybe it's the combination, the passing game, the running game, or the combination, just this newfound offense from a year ago?
Yeah, the balance for sure. The balance on offense is very encouraging to see. I think it's what makes them a contender. But the most impressive thing to me about this team is that you could lose Gibson as a pass rusher and the whole defense could keep it together. A big part of that is schematic. And this week they have an opportunity to go up against one of the more physically impressive players in their entire division in Isaac Jeffcoat. He's 5'11", he's 215, averages about 6.5 yards a carry, 11 touchdowns on the season. And, you know, if they can make him look human, then I think they have a shot against almost anybody, because you know that if you can neutralize star athletes and then you can do your thing on the offensive side of the ball, who's going to stop you? There's some very good teams out there. You saw Snowflake in person, but you know this is a real true test for ACP this week.
Now, Ralph, I'm pretty sure that you watched their game versus that Indiana school. How does this running back compare to that one? Because I remember a lot of people talking about their running back at that Indiana school, that he was really tough. Have you seen any comparison or similarities?
Well, the comparison would be like, well, what if you had like 12 Isaac Jeffcoats?
Oh, Jesus.
You know that you know because they're stacked everywhere, which frees their talent up to do big things. But that's the nice thing is when the, you know, this is why a lot of people work out when they wake up in the morning, right? When the hardest thing that you've done is the first thing of the day, then it makes the rest of the day go a little smoother. So you go out to Indiana, you challenge yourself against a team that you really can't hang with, and you give it your all. It makes everything else that you go through in the season a little bit more feasible, a little bit less surprising. And so, you know, but at the same time, a good player is a good player, and he can get you. So I would say that thus far this season, this is one of the biggest threats to because you have a running back like that, you have the ability to control the clock, which means things don't get out of hand. You know, you give your defense a little bit of a break, and this is a good team. They're 5-1, right?
Yep.
So this is
I was going to say this is a big game also because just at least looking at the initial rankings, possible playoff preview. 2-15, 3-14. You just never know if they end up meeting in round 1 or round 2. I mean, it's
this is the game that it would be if the playoffs started today.
Yes,
you're right.
2-15 matchup. Yeah, indeed. It's good stuff. Let's see the Knights keep on rolling. The Casteel Colts 40, the Perry Pumas 37, quadruple overtime final. Wow. Ralph, you kept me abreast of this game. Very entertaining contest. Both teams are now 4-2 on the year, but Ralph, it's Casteel who has a region win right now and not Perry. Who would have thunk it? I certainly didn't at this juncture. I mean, that is a surprise. I mean, it's awesome. That just speaks volumes about this CUSD.
It's not only that we didn't really give Casteel a chance in the Premier Region. You know, we had this conversation. It's not just that. It's that the biggest issue with Casteel so far this year, the thing that is keeping them from being 6-0, is the inability to close out games. But this might be the best effort to close a game out of any team all year long, any contest all year long. And, you know, Paul Palmer did a great job of limiting his turnovers, especially when they were so dependent on the passing game. Perry did a really, really good job of kind of shutting down Casteel's attempts to run the ball. There was really only one play over 20 yards in the run game, and that was Paul Palmer himself. So, Perry just did a fantastic job defensively in this game, especially in the first 3 quarters, and Casteel stuck with it. And it's very possible that a lot of these close games built Casteel for this moment. But yeah, I mean, Porter Del Noche, 13 tackles. They got in the backfield 4 times. Afton Cantrell had an interception, a 45-yard interception return that was huge for them. And then in the kicking game, Raiden Aguinaga, who I think might be Cyrus's brother,
I think it
goes
yes.
6 for 6, scoring 10 points and with the game winner. So just an awesome performance from Casteel. You got to be super, super proud of this team. If you look at their history outside of the 3A title game win, is there a better victory?
Right. They have no signature wins, so to speak, outside of
they got
3A.
Higley.
No, I think you're right.
I think they got Higley in a playoff game at the 5A level once, maybe.
No, Higley got them.
No, Higley got them.
Oh, they got Higley in the regular season. Higley got him back.
Yes.
And
that was Gunner Cruz against Spencer Brash.
That's right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was remembering that backwards. This might be it. This might be their biggest big school win.
That's fair to say.
Dang,
really, they got a lot of dudes on both sides. I mean, this is a game that I know that you love, Chili. I mean,
yeah.
Offense, defense, both teams, special teams. Rattle it off, my man. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, listen, both sides, man, Perry's loaded. Obviously, it starts with their quarterback, Kel Snyder. They got some receivers over there that have been doing their thing, Moon and Walker. And Casteel, like, man, what Paul Palmer's been able to do after kind of being written off by so many after last year and stuff, like what he's been able to do, 17 touchdowns, and finally threw his first interception. I don't anticipate too many of those coming, but he's been absolutely special. So him and Kabaki, Lewis, and this running back from New York, Linier, been spectacular. Sorensen, I know, is over there getting some carries and things like that. But man, Kabaki and Lewis and Elijah Beeman hasn't even fully been available. And he's one of the super special 25 athletes that I've been trying to, wake everybody up to. And anytime that he's on the field, he's potentially the best player on it. Defensively, like, man, this team is loaded with Cantrell and Del Nos and Hamilton and the kid, the alphabet man. I can't say his last name. Patanga Tao.
Yes,
but
it's tough.
But I can't pronounce it. I am sorry, but my man is a baller. So want to show him some love. But yeah, look, these guys. Every time it never fails. Anytime that I write off Casteel and Coach Newcomb, they come out and surprise me. Kids transfer out. Oh my God, it's burning down over there at Casteel. He goes out and wins 8 games. More kids transfer out. Superstars. Oh my gosh, there's no way he rebounds. He goes out and wins 8 games. Right. I think it's a down year for Casteel. What does he do? He starts this thing off by beating Perry, who's supposed to be on the up. So, like, again, I always got to do this whenever he does it to me. I got to give Coach Newcomb his flowers for making this whole thing work. He's a genius, and I am not. So,
what I think is great though about this team is it's very senior oriented. I mean, they realize this is their last go. I mean, we talk about Palmer and Nathan McDowell. I think it's McDowell. McDonald, rather. They've got a lot of seniors on this team that are contributing, and kind of like a point guard in the NCAA tournament. You want him to be a senior. He's gone through those ropes, and that's what this Casteel class. So aside from just dudes, as we'll call them, senior dudes who realize, hey, this is their last region gauntlet. So we'll see. But I mean, Casteel is in a nice position, having scored 40 with a bunch of seniors. And the biggest thing, I think, before you go, Chili, again, they know that they can win these types of games now.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up a great point with all the senior leadership on the team. Like this Perry team, they're young. They're young. Their quarterback's a sophomore. One of their top 3 running backs is a sophomore, Talon Frazier. They got some guys going both ways still. Like I know they'd like to have guys going one way, but they just don't yet. Amos Augustine, one of their super talented receivers, like he's a freshman. Like and while they do have senior leaders on the team, there's a lot of youth on this Perry team, so they're still kind of learning the ropes, finding their way, and figuring things out. But man, hell of a war to watch. Whoever was out there on Friday watching this thing, like I think Zach Albira was out there. I was trying to hold on to his tweets and I think it was Ariana's tweets about what was going on over there. But man, spectacular game to go to.
Absolutely. No, it was definitely good stuff. And we'll talk about their upcoming opponents later in the show. The Basha Bears, they continue their very strong season, 35-20 over the Hamilton Huskies. They upped their mark to 6 wins and 1 loss. Efficiency. I think that's what we got here, gentlemen. That's where we're going. Brody Veers, 17 of 22, 266 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Who was on the receiving end of those scores? It's the U of A commit. That's Gio Richardson, 5 receptions for 172 yards. Quite the combination, Ralph, and they have so many more weapons to boot.
Hey, you guys were right about the under. I said 650 passing yards. They almost didn't even get to 400.
True. Very
Come on
true.
now.
That you bring up Basha's offense, you bring up Gio Richardson, but at the end of the day, like Basha played some stellar defense in this game against a team that came in averaging like 300 passing yards a game.
That's right.
Held Rich Lucero to 18 of 38 for 143.
All right. But I told you this wasn't going to be Valley Vista or Desert Vista. This is what happens when you go down to that side of Val Vista. Basha was going to do what they do. That's just what this was. The toughest team that Hamilton faced. I'm impressed that they did what they did. To be honest with you, like I know the stat line looks tough. Rich Lucero is really good, and for him to be I don't want to say inefficient, but under 50% passing, like I'm impressed with Basha. I'm impressed with what Basha did. Basha executed everything that they wanted to, and they look, like I said, it was a very, very light first 5 weeks for Hamilton, and now they know what it looks like. This team might end up 9-1. This team might end up 9-1 or 8-2, just because now they've seen what it looks like. They needed to see it, but it's not their fault. They needed Centennial to be full strength week 1, and they weren't. So I think that's part of what goes into this.
No, you're right. I mean, this is where the rubber is starting to meet the road. I mean, we got 4 teams that we're going to talk about against each other right now, and it's great. The Basha Bears, they are off this week, and I'm contemplating. I don't know which game I'm going to go to. I guess the first one we'll talk about will be the Perry Pumas and the Hamilton Huskies. Both of those teams coming off of losses. Cale Snyder, once again, he'll go up against a senior quarterback for Perry. A loss would drop them to 4-3 and 0-2 in the region. Not really where Joseph Ortiz wants to be. For Hamilton, 5-1 currently. A lot of teams, as Chili, as you just mentioned, a lot of teams are going to lose to Basha this year. So that one loss is not defining.
For sure.
This is a big game because, yes, if the Huskies win this one 6-1 and they're back on track, kind of going that road that you said, hey, maybe 9-1, a lot riding. And Chili, we'll start with you. Just so much on the line for both teams, I feel.
Yeah, look, I love this quarterback matchup. It's old line versus young line, like the line from Rocky, right? Rich Lucero, who's seen it all and been through it all. The ultimate quarterback competitor. Any quarterback that's come into that room, he's chased out of that room and in his class. And I think that he's been absolutely spectacular protecting his position over there at Hamilton. Perry, the young fella, Cale Snyder, got to watch him pop off early this year versus Desert Ridge. And when Brett sent the infamous tweet of there's going to be very, very many more touchdowns thrown and victories for him. Yes, there will be. So I'm excited to see that matchup. And then offensively, look, Hamilton, I like that. I like that what they got in that receiving room. Torres, Rinaldi's back. Roy Oliver, the young fella, and Perry with Walker, Hayden Moon, and their own young fella, Amos Augustine. This is going to be a lot of fun. And then the running backs. Listen, I just need to know what's going on. I feel like my guy Jacob Brown just needs a little bit more usage. Him and Michael Smith trying to figure out that thing, because Michael Smith's early season, Ralph, I'm hoping you can break down some of these statistics. It's kind of gone like this up to this point. On the other side of it, Maddox Ford, Nate Wheeler, consistently doing their thing for Perry. And then defensively, man, this is where I trust Hamilton a little bit more in this game. Jandro, Delatorre, LeBlanc. LeBlanc's an absolute monster. Jones is a nightmare, and Richardson, he sometimes gives me like those Genesis Smith vibes. And if y'all are familiar, that's very, very dangerous if you're the offense playing against him. Perry on the flip side, Sands, Sarpy, Ford, Kimling. I love Kimling. Absolutely love what he's done this year. He's been all over the place. Super talented safety. And, Hamilton, they got some extra guys in that wide receiver room, Ford and James. This game is going to be, I think Perry is coming off the perfect game for this, because they already went through this war once with Casteel, playing a high-scoring, close game. I think they're going to deal with something similar versus Hamilton. And Hamilton, they just need to, obviously lace up them cleats again and say, hey, look, what we showed versus Basha, that is not who we are, and we want our get back. So we're going to go 8-2, 9-1 to go get it.
Yeah, that's why this game is real good, Ralph.
I have a lot of confidence, and it's going to sound weird coming off a game where Hamilton gave up 35 to Basha, but I have a lot of confidence in Hamilton's defense coming into this game.
Yeah.
There were 3 explosive plays for Basha against Hamilton. If you take those 3 plays away, and I know we're playing the what-if game, but there's a lot of data outside of those 3 plays. If you take those 3 plays away, which is a long quarterback run, a 23-yard run by Noah Roberts, and an 89-yard catch and touchdown by Gio Richardson, without those, you have only 16 completions at 11 yards of completion for Basha. That's pretty good against Brody Veers, right?
Yeah.
If you take those 2 runs away, you're talking about 31 carries at 2.67 yards a carry. Hamilton brought it defensively. They sacked Brody Veers 4 times. Perry has to come into this game. They got to be on their stuff. They absolutely do, because this is one of the more dangerous defenses that they will have faced all season long. And the last time that Cale Snyder was uncomfortable was Perry's first loss.
Okay, against Brophy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Hamilton's pass rush is what makes me think that they have the edge in this game. And I would say that whether or not Perry came out on the winning end versus Casteel.
Okay,
that's fair. No, that's fair, and that's why I'm torn. I want to see. I want to see this matchup. I have not seen.
Are you going?
Since that, I'm torn. We got another game to talk about. So I don't know who to. Maybe I'll try to make that decision during the interview. I don't know, but it's, you got 2 really good CUSD games, and I kind of lean with both of you guys that the Hamilton defense could be the difference in this game, but you just never know when Cale Snyder's going to go when he's going to go nuts. And
if you tell me that this game is going to come down to which defense can get more stops, right now I'm going to say Hamilton's defense can get more stops.
That's fair.
No, not trying to throw shade up here. They're better than they've ever been. But
there's no reason to. Like in the middle of that game against Casteel, I think they had an end zone interception, and I just was like, man, they're doing it. And then everything fell. I feel like I was the jinx, but they are one of the better defenses in the state. And there's a reason that even though they're 4-2, they're 1 spot outside the open.
Correct. Very true. Yeah, we'll We'll see. One guy who totally is vested in the CUSD is the director of athletics for the district. That's Shawn Rustad, and I was able to catch up with him, and he talks about some future goals, and he talks about what was obviously a crazy Friday night in football this past Friday. I'm here with the director of athletics for the CUSD, and that is Mr. Shawn Rustad. And Shawn, I will say that what a night on Friday night. Casteel, Perry, Basha, Hamilton, kind of opening week for region. What a week. You went to 2 games.
Yeah, it was an outstanding weekend. Started the day off at, or the evening off at Perry High School and Casteel, left at halftime, ran over to the Hamilton Basha game. The environments at both places were outstanding, packed crowds, great football. Couldn't ask for any better.
It definitely is good stuff, and Friday nights truly are special. I'll ask, just when you're standing at any one of the sidelines and you take it all in, kind of like what you did the other night, how does it feel just to know that, hey, this is a very successful school district, not even any given school, but the district itself from a participation standpoint, both in the stands and on the field?
Yeah, it's been a great amount of work by the entire district, from superintendency all the way through. That particular Friday night game at Basha, it was the 3rd time Basha's played in a Max Preps top 10 nationally ranked game, which involved obviously the Hamilton Huskies. So it's and when you see the community come out and support the athletes, the student athletes on the field, it's a great feeling.
And speaking of on the field, there is new turf on 4 of the 5 schools. Great looking aesthetics, that's for sure. Tell us about kind of what went into it, because it's not just one of those things where you snap your finger and there's turf. If you saw over the summer, which you obviously did, stuff was dug up pretty good.
Yeah, it was at least a year process from the beginning of conversations to the end with the punch list. But the ability to have better programming, have different youth programs out there utilizing our facilities and our campuses, giving our kids an opportunity to play on near perfection as far as
because it's also not just soccer; it'll be football. It'll be soccer as well.
Absolutely. No more dead grass for soccer seasons. They're going to play on a consistent, safe field.
Jumping back to region play, very, very deep. You look at Casteel, you look at Perry, you look at obviously Arizona Avenue, just everything that goes involved. High quality of football, but what separates this year, it seems like, is everybody has a great chance. In years past, it seemed like a couple schools might be down, but now everybody's pushing to the top.
Yeah, everybody has an opportunity, and I think that started off with last spring and the summer, with the new year starting for this fall. The expectation was we were going to be successful at every one of our campuses, and our kids, our community, and our coaches have embraced that, and we'll see how it all plays out at the end.
A lot of games on Thursday this year throughout the Valley. Do you wish sometime you could clone yourself, or maybe 2 of the teams play on Thursday and 2 on Friday? It's probably tough on you going from one game to another, not wanting to leave a good game, but at the same time, there's a lot of Thursday contests as well.
Yeah, that's true. Selfishly, I don't mind the Thursday, Friday games, but from a broader perspective, Friday Night Lights is where it's at. So it does afford me the opportunity to get to multiple games in a week. But realistically, I like our games on Friday night, where the fans and the community are more available to come out and support.
I was going to say, it's a great way to start the weekend, that's for sure. Some of the goals that the CUSD has, whether they're football related or any of the other sports, could you share what you guys are planning, whether it's retooling some things or introducing some new things?
The newest thing that we've done this year actually is we've kind of, at the high school level, revamped our character education. We're capturing anywhere from 500 to 700 athletes on a given month. with phenomenal speakers that are coming out and talking about grit, leadership, the will to compete, the competitive mindset. And the first 2 months have been outstanding. And my hope is that we continue to retool and continue to make this the best thing going for our community at our high schools.
Saturdays are probably fun. They're fun for anybody, any guy who loves college football. But for someone like yourself, for someone like myself who sees Friday nights transcend into Saturday, it's got to be fun seeing some of these guys who we saw on Friday nights play on Saturdays, whether it's a Tyler Shuck, or whether it's a Jawar Jordan, whether it's a Hank Pepper. It's cool.
Absolutely it is. And whether it's playing on Saturdays or whether it's even playing on Sundays.
Sure.
To see the Chandler Unified School District kids out there progressing in their life and playing at the next level. And that's whether it's NIAI, whether that's D1, D3, the NFL, etc. Whether we're seeing them on TV, we're seeing it on social media as well. It is a constant barrage of CUSD students getting it done at the next level.
Indeed, the CUSD is second to none. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it.
I'll definitely say he has to be at multiple games all the time. And Friday, I wish I could be at 2 games. We already talked about Perry at Hamilton. Next on the docket, Chandler at Casteel. The Chandler Wolves lifetime 3-0. That's a big one. Ralph, a win obviously gets the Wolves a region win, but it gets people talking about, hey, Chandler might have a little something going on over there. But a loss for the Wolves, oh, well, yeah, Chandler's done. I mean, I think this is a big game for name recognition for the Wolves, not only within the CUSD and region play, but as we branch into the East Valley and further.
That's a really good point. I mean, not only is this a big game for Chandler just for sort of survival and relevancy, but, you know, you talked about the new turf Austin field with Shawn Rustad, and if Chandler loses this game, they're not even going to probably not going to get an opportunity to show it off in the playoffs. They're currently one spot outside of even having a home game in the 6A playoffs.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and so, you know, this game matters a lot for Chandler, and Casteel's given them a couple of games. If I'm not mistaken, Casteel kind of took them to the brink on that game that got rescheduled to a Saturday morning.
That's right. Yes.
That one time. And so
one of those finals was like 21-17 or something crazy like that. Yeah.
This would be a really good opportunity for Chandler to establish that, like, no, we're still here. Like the Liberty might be Liberty right now, but when it comes to the East Valley, it's still us. And so, you know, this is really going to be a great opportunity for both schools, and Casteel just has to be like, to be able to ride this momentum, to not be coming off yet another loss to Perry, but to actually stick with it, get that win, and then realize, like, hey, man, we competed with Mountain Point as well. Like that we could do this, you know, I think that Paul Palmer waited a long time for this opportunity to be Casteel's quarterback. Imagine leaving Casteel with a win over Chandler, the only one ever. Just a really cool opportunity for both schools.
So when these 225 classes were freshmen, and I was going out to freshman games, obviously, I tried to hype this thing up because Casteel had this super loaded freshman class that was supposed to compete at the highest of levels. And in the off season, you know, they were a little chatty, if you will. Chili, make sure you show up to our game versus Chandler. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's what you guys want. You guys swing, and you guys are trying to hit home runs. Okay, but I dig it. So I listened to all the chatter, and these guys were heavy with it. So I said, okay, cool. I'm only gonna see Chandler one time. I'm gonna go watch them versus Casteel to see if they can slow down this Casteel juggernaut that's led by Paul Palmer, and a host of other talented kids. Chandler at the time, quarterback was Jackson Knutson on the freshman level, currently throwing touchdowns, making it rain in Tempe for McClintock. Running back was Xavier Valdivia, super talented running back, running touchdowns for Pinnacle. Blocking on that line was Andrew Dudley, currently on the other side of the country, being successful over at IMG. Receiving core was crazy. Two-way guy like Kimon Jackson, currently catching touchdowns from Jackson Knutson over at McClintock. They had guys like, Ormita and Ochoa and some of those guys over there doing their thing. And they've retained some of that talent, but they didn't retain it all. That Chandler team rolled Casteel. I think it was like 50-0. And a lot of that damage was done in the first half. I think it was like running clock in the second half. I think it was like 42-0 in the first half. And I think Paul Palmer wants his get back. He was knocked out of that game, and I think that he wants his get back, and he's going to fully take advantage of every opportunity to try to get it. And I could not be more excited to sell that game to you, Brett. I would want to see what a 17 touchdown throwing Paul Palmer does versus this Chandler defense after what happened his freshman year, because he hasn't forgotten. This will be an exciting game to go to.
It's not well said. Like you wrote it like a story. It really did. Yeah, that's why I'm torn. I don't know which, because I've not seen the Chandler Wolves yet. So I don't know. I've got to make a decision, I guess, in the next, still got 48 hours or so. But that shows how deep this region is, how good the teams are, because something that the three of us spoke about in years past, there was always a team down, whether there was for whatever reason, they were a team always had, all right, hey, they're going to be 3-7 this year. But this year, everybody is good. Everybody's challenging for home games. I mean, this is going to be good stuff. So I don't know which contest I'll go to. And this is the first time in a long time that I haven't been decided on which games to go to. Even a couple weeks ago, the Snowflake Seton Catholic game, I debated on going to that. I was going to go to another contest, but yeah, it's all over the place, and that's great when there's great football all around. With that being said, fellas, we will see you guys next week. We'll discuss some of the rankings, and maybe some of them will be a little bit less screwy than they have been. I mean, we got a coach out there in Scottsdale saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're good, but we don't believe in the open. We don't belong there, and I'm with him on that. It's you guys know my stance. Ralph, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
Who said that?
Oh, there you go.
Conrad Hamilton.
Okay.
He
I mean, it's documented. It's documented. It's not like a secret, but yes.
Yeah,
I know. I just anybody who agrees with me, they get added to my you're a smart person list.
Yeah, no, Conrad
Shout
Hamilton.
out, hey, no. You know what's funny though is remember when Kurt Warner went to a courtroom to say that Desert Mountain shouldn't be playing 6A kids ever. Didn't that happen?
That did happen.
Kurt Warner went to court. He went to court on behalf of Desert Mountain not having to play games.
Yeah.
So this isn't like something like Desert Mountain's new to the scene. They've always believed that we don't belong with the big boys.
Correct. Yeah, that's after the game, he was asked and he was like, no, we were in there last year. We didn't perform well. Yeah, I mean, it's a good little snippet. So yeah, hopefully
nice.
the rankings start to get a little bit more
true. A lot of teams go in there and don't perform well. Coach Hamilton's Coach Hamilton is a defensive savant, one of the better coaches that we have in Arizona. Like,
yeah,
and I love him, even though half the time he forgets who I am. But like, dude, I am just stunned and a little disappointed that like he would come out and say, "Oh, we don't belong in the open." Last year they had like 6 committed Division I guys. They were so loaded. They absolutely belong. And this year, look, their record is what their record is. You know what? All these 5A teams that don't want to compete in the open, go put Basha on, go request Basha, Liberty, or Hamilton, or one of these traditional powers on your schedule for your freedom
can't.
game.
You can't.
Just once.
You can't do that.
Just
you
put
have
the
to do the
request in.
opposite. You have to do the opposite. You
put the request
You can't schedule good teams. You can't because that propels you in the rankings even if you lose. You have to
bus bonus.
Yeah, that's the bus bonus. You have to do what Hamilton did and schedule like Valley Vista, Boulder Creek, stuff like that. Like that's what you have.
But NDP had Brophy on their schedule, and Brophy was their only loss. They weren't anywhere close to the Open.
Was that their only loss of the year?
No, they lost
at the time.
Too.
No, at the time, Brophy was their only loss. They were nowhere close to the Open. They were nowhere close to the top 8. Go schedule one of these traditional powers. Let them beat the brakes off of you in the regular season, so that you can see that you don't belong. Then,
but then if you go 9-1, you'll be in the Open,
right?
Maybe, but I mean, then there's gonna be like 15 9-1 teams. Not all of them are gonna make it in.
That's why it'd be so much easier if it was just 6A teams, and we wouldn't have to have this. We could concentrate our efforts on game shows.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Listen, I say all that. Like, I love Coach Hamilton. I really do. I think.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Yes,
I love how he coaches his guys, and
I just found it very interesting that he was very much to the point of. He's like, no, we're not open material, and I thought it was great for a top-rated team like that to say, hey, let's stick to 5A football.
Can I just, before we go, I do want to point out that Ironwood Ridge has Nogales, Maricopa, and Marana Mountain View left on their schedule. They had only an 8-point win over Seton Catholic, and they have a legitimate shot at going to the Open right now.
That is crazy.
That's crazy.
So I hope
that's insane.
The best way to blow this whole thing up, I used to get really mad about it, but the best way to blow this whole thing up is to have Ironwood Ridge get into the Open. So at this point, I'm just rooting for chaos so that 5A will come around to doing the same thing 4A did, which was having an emergency meeting in the middle of the season.
I mean, I don't know. Then we're going to be pushing some 5A teams out that we feel like should be in the playoffs of some sort and crying about that thing. Like, no matter what, it's going to leave a whole bunch of people unhappy.
Well, here's another fun thing that could happen. Marana as the 1 seed taking on like 8 seed Perry and getting dogged in the first round.
It's crazy. It is it's nuts. I mean, that's why we love talking about this stuff. It is it's terrific. It's great quality football. I mean, the top of 5A meeting the bottom of 6A. I mean, I wish it's good. It's we shall see what goes on. But until next week, we will tweet, we will text, and folks, we just always enjoy your engagement, whether it's on Facebook, any other social media. It's fantastic. Keep up the great work, guys. Social media is awesome. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.